to 30% of payroll. Like it's a lot of money.
But I think a lot of us are really not prepared to talk about it.
Utilization to me is a bit of a nonsense metric.
And what do you do when you're
Totally.
managing a team and someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with mental health."
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friends with Benefits, the essential podcast for benefit and rewards leaders. I'm David, and with my co host, Carl, who's actually joining remotely from Germany with our guest. Really excited to be having a conversation with Joana that we're going to go into in a second. It's going to be great. And come and join us.
Awesome. So Joe, thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, we're starting with Friends with Benefits. Maybe we can start with a little bit of an introduction, right? Would love to learn a little bit more. You've obviously done a lot, seen a lot, like been working in benefits for a number of years now. So would love to, yeah, maybe just get a quick introduction to yourself. Maybe we start with that, if that's okay.
Yeah. So my name is Joana Viana. I go by Jo. Most people know me as Jo. It's just easier. I've been working in benefits for a number of years, more than I would like to admit, more than 10, certainly. I spent a number of years at IBM, also in the benefits area. I started by managing fleet back when cars were a huge company benefit. And then I just moved on to managing other benefits and moved on to insured um, benefits and perks and wellness programs. After that, I spent a couple of years also at Remote, which is an employer of record, there as a senior expert on design, benefits design and strategy. And currently, I'm a director of global benefits at Eventbrite, where I oversee a number of countries and all our benefits programs across the board and wellness initiatives as well.
Awesome. And that's globally, right? Like
That's globally, yes.
yeah. What does the
Uh,
benefits landscape kind of look like at Eventbrite today? Just as a yeah.
well, we have a lot of benefits. I think there um we like to invest in our employees, and we have a lot of benefits geared towards mental health. Also, fertility is one of the benefits that is very cherished here. Of course, your usual suspects, right? The must-haves, like the life insurances and the health insurances of the world. We have one that people really rave about. I personally also really like is what we call our bright breaks. So it
Mm.
means that the whole company is off the first Friday of every month. And so
Huge.
there's no FOMO,
Mm.
right? It's not like you are off, but then you come back on Monday for a full inbox and you have to catch up because the whole company is off. Of course, it looks a little different when you're working, client facing. Um, but there's a little more flexibility in this, but generally the whole company is off on the first Fridays. Then we have other things like financial education, which has really high utilization as well, and a number of other things geared also towards wellness, with our
Mm.
wellness allowance that we give the freedom to our employees to choose between a really extensive list. Includes like a massage or your gym membership or gym shoes or things like that.
Mm.
So there is a big investment in employee well-being and benefits.
And what's the approach you take at Eventbrite then, Joe, around this? Like, do you follow the hottest trends in benefits and see how they sort of land, or do you take a sort of data-led approach to this in terms of understanding the voice of the employee and benchmarking against competitors? How do you get to creating such a benefit strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I usually say I try to sit on the fence between the business interest and the employee's interest,
Mm.
right? And I think that's what people in the benefits area should do. Uh, so, and honestly, I think the market is really lacking on benchmarks. Like we know what other companies are doing, but by the time you see it on the benchmarks, that data is obsolete, right? They have already done it,
Good point.
and
Yeah.
then you're chasing, your tail. So I try to look at what are the emerging trends in like ways of work, where are our employees located, what things are happening in those locations, and then according to that also build a strategy that is global and equitable, right? Because when you manage benefits for a global company, one of the things you often hear is, why do you do this there and you don't do it here? So I try to, at least when it comes to access to resources, make it as equitable as possible. Of course, the dollar value will always different, right? Differ. It's very different to buy health insurance in India than it is to buy in the US or in Spain, right? But do you have the access to the same resources, right? For fertility, can you do an IVF with the amount we give you in each of these countries? And this is how I manage my strategy. And honestly, I try to make it um, make it modern in some way. I think
Mm.
the benefits industry. Also, by the way, I talk a lot, so you stop me anytime and ask me questions. Or if I derail too much, feel free to put me back on course. The benefits industry, and especially the insurance industry, has stayed the same for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane. You haven't seen other industries actually, having that much profit and doing so much without modernizing themselves. And this is happening in the insurance industry. So I try to disrupt it a little bit with with the little or the big leverage I have, right?
Yeah.
And try to challenge them in doing different things. Yeah.
I mean, coming back to that global piece, then, right? There will be. I mean, equity on a global basis is the holy grail everyone's searching for, right?
Yeah.
How so that must mean that you're restricting some of the things you can offer, presumably because it's not available in all markets, or are you sort of leaning into allowances more to
Yeah.
it's how so I'm sure there's loads of people listening to that listening to this that will be very interested to hear how you achieve equity on a global basis by not without watering down the proposition.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe,
mean,
sorry, before
sorry.
we go there, Joe, if it's okay to kind of give a bit of the lay of the land in terms of the countries and sort of general headcounts, etc., just so if people have a bit of a general idea of which countries
Yeah,
and
good question. I can give you maybe a few examples. We have around 8 or 9 countries. So we
yeah,
have India, Argentina, US, huge market. Spain is a big market for us. And we have UK, Ireland, Canada, Australia, Brazil.
very different places.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're all over, right? I think in looking at how we can build the equitable piece, I received which I don't know if at the time she was well-meaning. I like to believe she was, but I had a university professor that often said KISS, and that stands for keep it simple, stupid. And
Mm.
so that's how I view it, right? And I try to see, what do people need, and I would love if we all, held our hands and sang kumbaya here, but you're looking at it from also a capitalist point of view, right? Which is, why do you offer your health insurance? Is yes, because you want your employees to be healthy and want them to be committed, but that's also because you want them to be at work, right? And the more time they are out sick, they are not at work, and the productivity
Hmm.
declines. So once those things are kind of accounted for, and that's, your health insurance, your life insurance, your income protections, and the things that will keep these things off the mind of the employees, then the nice to have come. And yeah, if something is only available in Spain, then it's not highly likely that I will, run after implementing that. I will try to look what the alternative of that looks like in other countries. And then, I can find a solution that is global. There are a few global vendors out there that already done that work for us, and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But there are other things that also the local solution makes sense. I'm thinking, for example, on tax relief benefits, right? Where you haven't seen, like in the US, maybe it's not so common. Here in Spain, it's very common. UK, salary sacrifice, and India also on the flexible benefits. So in that case, then you want to sacrifice the having the global approach because it's something that is saving the employees money, and it's something that is not bringing you huge admin. So sometimes you'll make those decisions. So I would love to have, the simple 1 + 1 = 2. So everyone would start doing global benefits tomorrow, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. I feel, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't work. I guess before there's a couple of topics that we'd love to deep dive into, right? I think sort of run really great sort of mental health programs and things like that. We'd love to talk a little bit more about how you do that, right? Like as in how you design benefits that actually get used on a local level that match what they're looking for. Because even though you can offer these global solutions, what you need locally is going to be very different. But I think those are some of the topics that we want to cover. I think before we do, we usually touch at things like what's in the news this week. So maybe we can actually talk. There's like a couple topics that I'd love to get your opinion on. The first one, there's a recent article, I think, on HR director talking about stress at work is still the biggest sort of health and well-being issue, affects most generations. I guess, like, yeah, you've worked on well-being programs across these 8 countries. You mentioned a little bit about the flexibility of allowance. Like, what do you think companies are maybe still getting wrong about trying to tackle stress at work, and how can benefits support? Any like thoughts around that?
Wow, that's a
Big
big
topic.
question. Yeah. Yeah. There's something I have been looking into a lot recently, and also I don't really have the answer yet, but I've been looking in how we can improve our mental health and our mental well-being across the company. And the reason for that is that we have been seeing the trend of employees reporting, higher rates of depression and anxiety, which is obviously having an impact on productivity and a dollar impact in how our claims performance are at the end of the year with our health insurance. Um, I am not sure that I have found the answer yet, but it looks like isolation is now reported as one of the causes, especially for remote workers. So I think maybe and this is something I struggle a lot saying this, because I'm a big proponent of remote work and flexible work. I think that this I have been working remotely for many years before even the pandemic, and even when I had an office to go to, my team was still remote, so I would go to the office and still not be co-located. But I think this is so I don't want to say with this, everyone return to work tomorrow. Let's go back to an office and wear a suit and tie. Because I don't look good in a suit and tie. That's mainly the reasons for fashion mostly. But I think that maybe finding better ways to connect, and I don't know exactly what that looks like. I trust people that have been working on that maybe have a better answer than me. Finding ways to connect and getting this big piece of the isolation out is something that could help with that. And then, of course, we have a mental health solution. So we have a mental health partner. At the company, we offer the psychotherapy and counseling sessions. We also offer coaching sessions for the employees and their immediate family as well. And the number of sessions offered can be extended if there is a need. And I know that it sounds like it was ages ago, but I was working, in the benefits area when COVID came. And by the way, no one told HR that we were supposed to save the world in case of a global pandemic. Now we know.
That wasn't part
We
of the job
didn't.
description.
No, we didn't know back then. Apparently, it was expected from us. But I was working in the benefits area when all the companies realized, hey, we don't have an employee assistance program, we don't have a mental health solution, and now we have this global pandemic, and we all struggle to implement that. And I'm not sure it was done in the best way, the implementation or even the design of the solution for the employees. And honestly, I haven't seen it redesigned since then. And that is something that I have been looking at and thinking, okay, does this still make sense? And does this solution that we implemented, 5 years ago or even longer still makes sense? Does this meet the employee needs and is doing what it's supposed to do? Because we see utilization, right? But utilization only tells you so much. It tells you people are using it, but how much are they benefiting from it? And how good are we at measuring the return on investment or the impact of these solutions? And how can we even do that? I'm not sure I have the answer. I spend a lot of time thinking about this and thinking about how can we make sure that these solutions are impactful beyond the employees utilizing. Yeah, that's for me the most interesting piece.
Yeah, Carl, I think you had a lot of sort of interesting things around utilization and how that's not the be all end all measure. So maybe we can talk about that for a second.
Utilization to me is a bit of a nonsense metric, right? Utilization being the determining factor of success certainly is a nonsense metric because you have a benefit that impacts a handful of people, but it could be the most important thing in the world to them. Doesn't mean you should remove it because it only impacts a handful of people. Fertility support is a perfect example of that, right? Transgender benefit support is a perfect example of that. So, yeah, I take a very sort of strong stance on the whole utilization thing. I do wonder as well on the sort of coming back to the sort of the news topic that you mentioned, David, like the whole stress, mental health piece, and some of the stuff you were talking about, Jo. I do wonder whether has there been a rise in mental ill health? I was about to sort of quote some people I hear that I hear on sort of YouTube saying I've got mental health, or whatever that means. Like, well, that's a good thing if you've got mental health. Most people are struggling with mental ill health. But anyway, I wonder if it's just if it's more that the stigma has been removed from it, so that people are actually reporting correctly that they are suffering from mental health rather than putting stomach bugs or whatever whatever it may be to their manager and communicating that. I wonder. I mean, to be honest with you, I guess it probably doesn't really matter, does it? The it's still a problem and it's still something that whether it's quantifiable now versus the past, I guess, isn't really the issue. But it's something that's very difficult to address, I think, as well, right? Because you think some of it is resilience, some of it is people have real sophisticated support needs. So I mean, Jo, how do you tackle that diversity of what mental health actually really means, right?
Again, I accepted to come here just to tell you guys that I don't know any of the answers to this question. So maybe we should have started with that. I think it's fair to say that some of the stigma has been removed and people are not ashamed to say, I'm struggling and I'm struggling with depression and and I've personally been through it, right? When a couple of years ago I had depression and I had to take medication. And I decided, as with most things in life, that I'm not going to be in the closet about it. So I was openly talking about it. I'm like, hey, taking this medication. So, because also it changes your humor and your mood. And I didn't want people to think, or to think something else. I wanted to tell them the truth. And to be honest, how it was received by the different people, it differed a lot. And I think
Interesting.
there were generational differences, right? So when I talk to that about people who are more, a bit older than I am, they're they didn't of course, it wasn't a professional environment, so no one is going to tell me, oh, you're cuckoo bananas, which would also be a fair assessment, to be honest. But they would I'm just joking here, but it was received with a lot more resistance in talking about it.
Mm.
Whereas other people, more in the millennial generation that I'm part of, or younger, would be actually sharing their own experience, or maybe if they had any trips and tips and tricks on how to handle it, they would be sharing more. And I think, but I think a lot of us are really not prepared to talk about it. And what do you do when you're
Totally.
managing a team and someone comes to you and say, "Hey, I'm struggling with mental health," and how much do you support the person? How much do you even talk to the person? There's a lot of things that are still taboo. Uh, and and I think we need to do more on that. And we need to do more on talking openly. I think a lot of the stigma has been removed, but I think there's still a lot of that is there. And also I see clear differences across geographies
Mm.
when talking about mental health,
Yeah,
right?
I think
So when Asia is still very much a taboo
Close.
to talk
Yeah.
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's always going to be people that, irrespective of the progress that's made, that are just not going to want to have that conversation with a peer or
But
with manager or with HR, right? And I think that's why we need to make sure that these intervention systems that we have in place, whether it's a counselling service, an EAP, whether it's broader mental health support, it's known to everyone, so they can just triage themselves to it. They can access it, and I guess that to me seems like a battle that most companies can win, is just by reinforcing that message constantly, that there's support available if you need it. You don't have to tell us about it. It's personal, it's private. Your data is yours, but it's there if you need it. I think that's a really, just constantly reinforcing that message, I think, is a valuable one.
yeah, I think generally the benefits teams, we are really not great at marketing our
Yeah.
benefits. So the times that you talk to people and you think, and sometimes I struggle with what is the balance here, right? How many times do I tell people about this benefit that exists that to me it feels like I've told them 100 times? And then people don't know. If they don't know something exists, it's not a benefit. So that money was not, well invested. And I think that even for the benefits team, we should also think a lot more about how do we market our benefits and think about our offerings as something we're not selling something, but we still want people to buy it, right? We
Mm.
still want people to utilize and have accesses to what's what they need. And um and this is something that you don't really learn how to do. And I think we should be partnering maybe more with our marketing teams and with our go-to market teams and learning from them and telling people about these exciting things, because I always say, like, the perception of the benefits from the employee side is the most important thing about the benefits.
Mm.
You can have 100 programs and be spending millions, and if people are not using it, they don't know it exists, they don't know exact, then it's not a benefit and it's not going to do anything for your engagement, psychological contracts, and all those things we're trying to strengthen. Yeah.
It's quite a curious thing, right? I mean, it's one of the things that forces us to think through about being in the industry of like, where else do you have companies that are spending so much money, like literally, 10 to 30% of payroll. Like it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And yet you ask a lot of employees like, what do you get? How does it work? What do you use? And most people are like, I have no idea. I don't know what this is. I don't know what it's quite interesting, right? Like
Yeah.
I don't think you see that in a lot of different spaces where companies are just spending, throwing all this money on it, and yet people don't know about it. I mean, I guess any strategies that you've seen to do that, right? It's all, why is that, right? Like, yeah, what have you seen being successful as well?
Yeah, I think doing like road shows and even like is something that is effective. I think like even having focus groups, something
Mm,
that I've seen being effective, because sometimes you want to find out who are the influencers in a
mm,
certain team and have them, spread the message. And that I have seen being effective. Honestly, the newsletter is the easy one to implement. But how many people are, and we're really not. I think that um what I try to do in my work, whether it is, marketing the benefits or just my work, is optimizing for retrieval of information. And
mm,
we're very good at pushing information out, but we're not optimizing for retrieval. And to me, that is something that is like my pet peeve. Is like, okay, you put this information on my desk that I actually don't need it now, and now I should store it in
mm,
this, like digital drawer, so I know. But if you have it stored in a way that I can retrieve it when I need it, we're all going to be more efficient. But
mm,
because you pushed it to someone, then your job is done. My
mm,
job is to give you this information. There you go. It's in an email. And then, not all email systems are very good with their search function. I'm sure we all know
mm.
that. And this is where I think we could be also improving, is optimizing for retrieval of the benefits information by the employees. Where do you go when you want to know this particular information?
Yeah,
Mm.
I mean that's where we're very much leaning into AI, right? So
Yeah.
like AI interrogates and pulls in all of the data around benefits, and then you can ask it specific questions, and it will give you an answer and take you down the right path. And I think that has to be the right natural progression.
Mhm.
I imagine, I think in this industry is that AI, and we're really excited about what that's doing already for our clients. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've seen good examples. I mean, I've trained a chatbot years ago before, right? Because
To do what, Joe?
to answer employee questions.
Interesting. On
So it
benefits
was,
or
yeah,
the same
on
question over
benefits.
and over, am I covered for this? Or can I do that? That type
He
of,
was he was I was in fleet at the time, so
yeah.
it was many years ago. I think we were talking about 2015, 16.
Okay. Yeah.
But IBM being the tech giant that it is, that was a possibility there, and we were, writing the questions, writing the answers, teaching the bot where to find the documentation, and that really made a difference. To the employees, and also honestly to my team, right? Because simple questions of what's I don't know, what's the excess of my insurance is not something you need a human to answer. You just need people to know where to find the information. So that was very exciting. And I haven't seen much evolution since then until now with the explosion of AI, of course. And now I think we're getting better. I am a little cautious about using AI in the benefits space to answer questions. Of course, I mean those questions. Where can I find this? Where's the information? Yes, but not across the board. I think a human is necessary still at this point. But yeah, I think that will greatly improve, and I'm
Maybe, yeah.
excited for it too. Yeah.
Why not? Because I know that, yeah, it would be interesting to hear how you think about sort of deploying AI with benefits. And I think we had a conversation earlier around sort of AI and mental health, right? So, like, yeah, what's kind of your perspective? How do you think about it? Have you been playing around with it at Eventbrite? Maybe not. Why not? Yeah. How do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, on my personal time, yes. So the company, we do have, of course, like a policy of when to use it, and um, I have been also trying to utilize it for more, menial tasks that you still need to be
Mm,
done. And I think for me now, I see that as the biggest use case. It's like, what can I get off my desk with AI so that I can use my time and where I create the most value.
mm,
Um, for for the mental health piece, the cases I have seen, I haven't used it myself personally, but the cases I have seen, I'm on the fence on whether we are there yet. I don't think we are quite there with, AI still hallucinates a lot and still
Mm.
gives some answers that are maybe not the most helpful. I think what AI is lacking is the ability to say I don't know, and I think that's
Mm.
very important when it comes to mental health. And I mean, and in life, right? The ability to be humble and say, I just don't know the answers to that. And maybe we can find out together. Maybe I can go and, research that and come back to you. But the fact that AI is essentially designed to always come up with an answer, to me, is the scariest thing when it comes to mental
Mm.
health. Is someone needing some help or some guidance, or an AI just coming up with the answer that it seems more obvious at some point. That for me is scary, because if the person on the other side is, whether that person is ready to receive the answer, or if the answer is even adequate from
Yeah.
just, essentially adequate.
I suppose the ultimate fear is that it gives someone some terrible advice
Yeah.
and they're a red flag mental health sort of in that sort of red flag mental health sort of space. But I guess, like, what about things like more process driven therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy and those sorts? Do you reckon that's something that, 'cause it seems like some companies are really pushing into this at the moment, and I kind of agree with you. I've got a bit of it makes me feel a little bit uneasy, but I don't know if that's just a bias from, what and you specialize in this area, Jo, right? You're trained in this area, so
Yeah.
who best to ask, right?
I'm not sure. You mean the use of AI in CBT, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I cannot talk, like, I'm not specialized in CBT or therapy in general. So uh I don't I'm not sure that the companies should be pushing for AI as it stands. From what I have seen, obviously, I think people, smarter than me, that specialize in it, could probably give you a much better answer. But at the current state, I don't think AI can replace a therapist and can replace someone that, spent years studying it and has seen the evolution of the therapeutic methods over the years, and uh, has studied it and has honestly interacted with humans enough to know humans. And I'm not sure that that's the case. And I honestly struggle with anyone pushing therapy on anyone. So just
Fair.
that's my personal stance, right? If I need to tell you, maybe I can advise you for close enough and say, hey, I think maybe you could benefit from talking to someone. Pushing it, I think, is honestly a terrible idea, because, nothing makes you not want to do something as strong as someone really
Mm.
trying to push you into it, right? Because we all keep a wild teenager within us, right? I think. Or maybe it's just me. Yeah.
The thing that's interesting as well is sort of, obviously there's the use of AI in therapy and such, but there's a lot of different types of support that you guys and companies in general are providing around health, right? So whether it's an EAP or it's more comprehensive support, or it's included as part of a medical, like, how do you think about these different sort of layers, and how do you build something that is consistent in giving people the most value based on the offerings that, and again, it might be different by country, right? Based on what's included. Would love to learn a little bit more about how you think about layering in that mental health support based on all the other things that might be included as part of a benefits plan.
So yeah, essentially, I mean, that is something that when I started at my current position, I was looking um where there is redundancy on
Mm.
what is offered, right? And because we are in the tech industry and we have seen this trend in declining mental health, honestly, in the tech industry, Silicon Valley and so on, it seems that it's not redundant, but it's actually necessary to have that
Interesting.
redundancy built in.
Hmm.
So we have I've made some changes in our mental health offering, but only from a standpoint of cultural fit and not from a
Hmm.
standpoint of we're offering too much, because I have the utilization and the feedback. So not only to tie it back to Carl's earlier comment about how the utilization rate is not a great measurement. It is though a number, and it's hard data that you can present to sometimes people that are not interested in
Yeah.
the impact. But but that we have high utilization. We have seen the utilization rate increase. And here I'm talking in general of mental health solutions. And I think, again, because the stigma is not there. But I think the redundancy at this point in time is is necessary,
Hmm.
and to have this, what mental health solutions usually bring, that your more traditional health insurances and the psychologists and psychiatrists embedded in your health insurance would not, is how immediate it is your access
Right.
to
Hmm.
help. And that, I think, it becomes sometimes really necessary to have that, because you want, if someone is in a situation of crisis, you want them to be able to access a psychologist, a therapist, a counselor within those 24 hours. And um, there was an example a while ago where someone has lost uh, someone from the family, and I got a personal thank you note from the person saying, you know, you don't know how much impact having this had, because not only I had access to a therapist immediately for myself, but also had access to legal counsel, to financial advice, and how to deal with the things. Because, when you lose, say, a spouse, or there are some things you need to take care when you are in a state where sometimes you cannot even take care of yourself. So for me, that's much more impactful than to say, oh, here's, I don't know, 10 sessions, and then you can use, and this is costing us so much, and now our utilization rate is X. But the fact that this built-in, an intentional redundancy was there at the time, it made all the difference for
Interesting.
that person. And their children having access to a therapist as well was very important, dealing
Hmm.
with the loss and so on. So, of course, from a financial perspective, sometimes you need to push a little bit to also be able to tell these stories and not show the numbers. But I think these stories, and I started by saying, I sit on the fence of what is the business interest and the company, um, and the employee experience and the employee side. And I think this is where my job also becomes really important and really meaningful, and what brings me joy, because obviously, I derive a lot of joy in looking at the loss ratios, but
Hmm. Like
but
everyone
then,
else,
of
So,
course, it's
yeah.
so much fun. And But then, when you have employees that you made a real impact because of this program that
Yeah.
that you implemented, and it was meaningful to them, and everyone loves, I did wellness challenge where everyone started walking, and I had success stories. People were like, oh, I lost 5 kilos because I finally started walking this 10K steps a day. And, and this is great. And it builds a lot of community and engagement. And this is great. But you want your programs to be meaningful enough that if someone is in a situation where they know where to find, and they have the right access to it. So I think it's, if you ask me, and if it's solely my decision, and money was no object, I would build that redundancy in intentionally.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
interesting. It's something that I've heard a lot of times in terms of building
Yeah.
this intentional redundancy. So that's like an interesting concept. And like, again, picking out where are things that, yeah, some of it is overlapping, but the reality is like a lot of things that you'd have wouldn't be covered as part of other things, right? So it's supplemental, but like
Yeah.
there might be things that are done through the same solution. So that's quite an interesting way of thinking about it, actually. Awesome. Look, I think, Jo, thanks so much for like also great conversation, right? Like deep dive into specifically like mental health and how you've been doing that in Eventbrite, but in general, there are a lot of things that we could talk to for hours, right, on benefits in general. I think we have a last kind of segment that we like to close on, which is our reward benefit confessions, right? So would love to hear from you, maybe if there are like, is there one benefit confession or one project that you sort of look back and you're like, not sure about that one. Yeah. Anything that stands out?
I don't really have anything. I was thinking about that a lot, and I don't really have anything that I look back. I was like, I mean, there are things I could have done better, of course, but I was going to give my confession a little bit of a guilty pleasure
Oh,
that I get,
let's hear it.
whereas because in this industry, most of my interactions are with a little bit older gentlemen. And then sometimes we've been talking for months through emails. They have no idea who they are talking to. So my guilty pleasure is usually when I get to talk with the insurance companies and our especially sales call or negotiation calls, and I get to go in and either meet them personally, which doesn't happen so much these days, but on camera, and seeing the first 5 minutes of their call. The fact that they are talking to me completely derails them, and I do get a little satisfaction
I
from
love
that.
that.
So that's my confession. Yeah.
Amazing. Jo, thanks so
Yeah.
much. Really appreciate it. That
Thank
was a great
you. Thank you.
conversation. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you. And good job on choosing the name, Carl. Big fan of Friends with
Thank you.
Benefits. Yeah.
Glad you approve.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jo. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks everybody for joining. It was a great conversation with Jo. So much to go into there in terms of her experience with mental health. It was really great for her to share a little bit of her personal side as well as what she's trying to do at Eventbrite. Yeah, if you want to listen to more great conversations on these topics and much more, please join and subscribe on your favorite podcast on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify.